In this video, we're going to talk about how to graph a function on a TI-84. In order to enter a function into our calculator, we're going to press the y equals button, which is underneath the screen on the left side of your calculator. And you'll see it has a whole bunch of y equals, so we can enter lots of different equations at the same time and graph them together or separately. In order to enter this equation, we're only going to enter the right side of the equation. The y1 represents the f of x, the name of the function, and our dependent variable, rather. In order to get a variable on the screen, I'm going to press the variable button, which is right next to the green alpha button. It says xt theta n. In order to pull up a squared, I'm going to press the squared button, and then +3, and then a variable button for the x, and then +2. Now that my equation is entered into the calculator and the equal sign is highlighted so I know this equation has been selected for graphing, I'm going to press the graph button. You can see this is a slightly older model of calculator, so mine is a little bit more pixelated and not in color, but yours should look very similar. And actually, let me upgrade here. That should look more like yours. There we go, much better. And we see the shape we expect to see. We know that x squared graphs produce parabolas. It's a quadratic function. If I didn't see this screen, or if I needed to zoom in on a different part, I have two ways to adjust my viewing window. The first are the pre-built-in settings under the zoom option. If I press zoom, I get a couple choices. Zoom box will make the width and height be the same values in terms of numbers. Zoom in zooms in to a point that you select. So for example, I'm going to select zoom in now, and then I'm going to go down here near where I think the vertex of the function is. I'm going to zoom in there. And now I can very clearly see a couple important features of the graph. I can see the two x-intercepts. I can see the y-intercept of my parabola. Back in the zoom menu, zoom square is another one. Zoom standard will take me back to the zoom settings that I had at the beginning. That's the default setting. You should not be using zoom stat because this is not statistics class. There is zoom fit. If when you first graph it, you don't see anything because your graph is really big and doesn't fit in that standard window, that's another option. In this case, you can see that it zooms out on the y to show us more of the curve, but because it does that, it squishes down that interesting stuff near the origin so that we can't see it. So when you're choosing your zoom settings, play around a little bit, see what looks best. Zoom standard is a good place to start, and then you can go from there. The other option is if you know how your function behaves, if you press the button next to zoom, called the window button, you can manually set the width of the windows, smallest to biggest x, along with what you want it to count by. Do those hash marks represent one number? 1, 2, 3. Are we counting by 2s? Are we counting by 5s? And then the same thing with the y values. I would recommend only playing with these settings once you're comfortable using your calculator. And remember that anytime you mess with these and you get something that looks ugly on your graph screen and you don't know how to fix it, you can always go back to zoom and then select option 6, zoom standard. All right, in our next video, we'll talk a little bit about the table function, and then a video after that, we'll talk about calculate and trace. If you have any questions, feel free to drop by room 111 or send me an email.